Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. We filter all of our conversations through the man box, where we unpack how as men we are expected to act in society, how fighting the authentic human experience is exhausting and damaging, and how mindfulness can help. Now, on to the show.
All right, here we are, Men Talking Mindfulness with John McCaskill, my over there, my brother from another mother, Will Schneider over in New York City. Today, we're going to be talking our second iteration of Bosses versus Leaders, and we've got a special guest, Neil Markey. Hopefully, Neil is going to be able to tune in. He's actually joining us from Mexico. I'll jump into a bio and a kind of an intro on Neil here shortly. But before that, I want to turn it over to Will to talk about our new awesome sponsor, and super excited about this.
Me too. I just want to say hello to you, John, to Neil for joining us. Big thanks for our audience that we're live streaming right now. It's great to be here. Another Friday. This is April 16th, our 16th episode, Bosses versus Leader Part 2. And we do have a new sponsor, John. It's Halo Sport, right? Get your Halo glow on the go. Halo Sport is a New York-based female and minority-founded brand that specializes in the cleanest, most functional hydration. Halo's unique hydration blend of electrolytes, minerals, and vitamins is now available in a convenient powder stick. Only 1 gram of sugar per stick, 1,200 milligrams of vitamin C to boost immunity, natural electrolytes, as well as an ionic trace minerals from the Great Salt Lake of Utah, and B vitamins to boost your energy. Refreshing and complete hydration and only 15 calories per stick. That's pretty awesome. You can add a Halo stick to your water once a day or as any time that you sweat to replenish the lost electrolytes and vital nutrients. And personally, John, I know the owner. His name's Anshuman. He came to my classes for a couple years here in New York City. Now we're all over the place because of COVID. But he's a really, really great guy. And one thing I really like about this product, and I've tried it before, it's very good. It's tasty, it's hydrating, and it's organic and natural. Is they're also really eco-friendly. They're moving from plastic bottles into aluminum bottles and reducing their carbon footprint because of these powder sticks. And we have a special giveaway, John, that we're going to do. We'll talk about the giveaway in a second, right? But if you want to buy and receive 20% off, head to halosport.com. I think we put it up right there. Yeah, and enter code MTM. That stands for Men Talking Mindfulness, MTM 2021, and get 20% off. And they've been gracious enough, Halo Sport, to offer us 3 listeners to give them a 1-month supply of those powder sticks. And all you need to do in order to register for this is to go to mentalkingmindfulness.com and sign up for our email list. And next week we'll read, we'll just generate this list. We're going to pick 3 winners at random from that list between now that the time you listen to the show and our episode on April 23rd. Welcome to Halo Sport on to Men Talking Mindfulness. Really proud to be here. And Anshuman, thank you for supporting us. And John, thank you for being here. And here we are.
Yes, here we are indeed, brother. Well, hey, so our show today, as we covered, well, first off, I am very excited to be dealing with Halo Sport and the powders, and very excited to be able to give away something from our show. That's super exciting. And we love you guys to jump on jump on our website, sign up, and we'll be drawing that next week. That's pretty exciting. New stuff for us. So, hey, our guest today may or may not be able to come in. He just texted me. They've got some connectivity. He's coming to us from Mexico, and may or may not be able to jump in. But right now, it's me and Will. If Neil Markey is able to come in, I'll tell you, he's got a hell of a background. He's a former Army Ranger, Columbia MBA, and he's got his time at McKinsey, and he went from McKinsey into teaching mindfulness and meditation. And he's got a new startup called Evolutio. I see he's trying to dial in here now. Let's see if I can bring him up. Let's see. Hey, all right. So Neil, I've got you up. It disappeared again. Neil, got you here. I'm not sure if you can hear us, but I just ran through a real brief intro. I gave the audience a heads up that you're coming to us from spotty connectivity. So we may or may not have you for the show, but can you hear us, brother? All right. It looks like a pretty good delay there. So I'll tell you what, Neil, we'll get you another time, brother. It's just going to be me and Will running with the show for today. But thanks for trying, and we'll definitely get you on the show here soon because you've got a hell of a story to share, and I love everything you're doing. So we'll talk to you another time. But for now, we'll go ahead. Hey, last time, I always forget this, man. Let's start with our grounding practice, and I need it bad because I was just telling you before the show, Will, and for our listeners, I had to do a quick breaking and entering here to get into to get into the workspace that I work out of, and you may get to see me get arrested live on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, Facebook, but I work out of this co-working space. And I had to run outside to my car, and the way that you get into the co-working space is with your phone, and there's nobody else here today. It's literally just me in the whole place. I left my phone inside the building. I wasn't able to call Will and let him know that I may not be able to make the show live. So I ran around the building, and I basically manhandled the back door and opened it. So like I said, you may see me get arrested right here live. Maybe that'll be our most popular show. But that said, I definitely could deal with a grounding practice before we get into the show, brother.
All right, well, okay, so it sounds like I'm leading, John, because you're a hot mess again. All good, all good, dude. All good. I got my brother's back. I'm sad Neil can't be with us today, but we'll figure out another time he can get on. But hey, that's part of being mindfulness, just using our resilience and our adaptivity, adaptiveness, and just going with the flow. So
Right.
Wherever you are, however you're feeling, find your seat, right? Maybe you sit a little bit differently today, or if you're, listening on podcast, maybe wherever you're doing, just stop. It's just going to take a couple minutes for us to ground. Everybody make contact somehow. Maybe interlace your fingers. Maybe drop your hands on your thighs, palms facing up or down, or maybe bring your hands across your chest so you can feel your heartbeat. Create a nice long spine. Let's start with a nice exhale through the mouth as you relax your jaw and your face. Good, big giant breath in. Feel more breath. Really feel that whole expansion of that big balloon breath into your body. And exhaling through the mouth or through the nose. And just let go and feel that dropping in the breath. And let's just keep going. Inhale. And exhale. Just keep focusing on the breath and trying to find a bigger quality and a smoother quality of inhale. And match that with a nice, satisfying, and smooth quality of exhalation. Keep going in. And notice how with the breathing, if you slow down the breath, especially to really calm and ground, a lot of that is inherent in the exhalation. If you just really slow down the exhale, how I could feel my body relaxing, I can feel my emotions settling and getting into a calmer place, because I always get amped up for the show. Just another few moments of just being with your breath and being with this amazing tool for your transformation in the moment. And just notice, take this last moment, just notice how you're feeling right now. Just a mindful reflection that I love when John says that internal selfie. That's okay what it is. Just be with what is and accept and surrender. Let's all take one giant cleansing breath in, big breath in. And let that go. Awesome. And then when you're ready, you can open up those eyes. Cool.
I'll throw the hat on backwards since I'm a rebel and I want to get arrested with my hat on backwards.
You just admitted to a crime, John. So hopefully.
Actually, let's see, man. First off, that grounding practice was awesome, man. It took me from sympathetic fight or freeze, and I am here now, much more calm, feeling a lot better. Hey, Neil, we're gonna give it one last shot, brother. I saw you jumped on again. I'm not sure if you can hear us, see us. Showing that you got good connectivity. We're going to keep rolling here. I'll leave you up, and if you hear us. Ah, shoot, man. The reception is terrible. So, yeah, I saw you texting me that you'll be in the States in a couple of weeks. Let's get you on the show sometime soon. But for now, me and Will just run with this one, man. So I appreciate you, brother, and I appreciate what you're doing down there. Love you, man. Yeah. Talk to you soon.
Same, Neil. Thanks, brother, for trying. I'll catch you soon. So John, why don't we, a couple things, let's bring up the comments, right? Would be a big asset. And let's talk about our mindfulness moments of the week.
Yeah, man. So my mindful moment of the week, I'm actually trying this new meditation app. It's called New Calm. And it comes with a little disc that you put on your wrist. It's like a sticker you put on your wrist, and then you put on headphones. And then you put on this like the eye mask, right? And you totally tune out all your senses and listen to binaural beats. And man, it's really been amazing tapping into that. But specifically, the first time I sat down with it was last week, Friday. A buddy of mine actually helps to sell the product. You can buy it as a product, and I'm not trying to sell anything here, but it was truly my mindful moment. The last week after the show, I went over to my buddy's house, put these headphones on, listened to the binaural beats, and it sets up the different frequencies going through one ear and the other, and that forces your brain to get into that parasympathetic nervous system that I talked about a second ago. And man, I went down into that parasympathetic super fast, much like I just did with your meditation, like from being amped up from last week's show into super calm. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. But just sitting there, tuning out all your senses, which is kind of contrary to what I normally do with my mindfulness practice. I normally try to tap into that. I tap into what I'm feeling in my emotions, tap into what I'm feeling in my sensations. And this thing actually kicked me into that parasympathetic nervous system by doing the opposite, which was bizarre for me, but it was a very neat experience. So that was probably my mindful moment for the week, or one of them. So,
well, how long did that take, John? That that experience. What was that? Just fill us in.
So it was that particular experience was a 50-minute meditation, listening to the binaural beats, but it took me only probably 5 minutes to really. Like I had my smartwatch on, and I checked it out afterwards, and I saw where it actually took me down into that parasympathetic, my nervous system, my heart rate variability, and everything was so much better during that hour. So pretty cool system. So trying that out and seeing whether I'm going to stick with it, but yeah, it seemed to work.
Technology and mindfulness. Excellent.
That's right. Maybe we do a whole episode on that. We've done the opposite. We've done the digital detox. Maybe we can do how you can use technology to tap into mindfulness.
Yeah. Get another sponsor. So, my mindfulness moment of the week, I really had a big epiphany this past weekend. I went hiking with a friend, and I realized how incredibly how conversation really sets the tone for mood, sets the tone for the moment. and I was hiking with a friend, and she's going through some stuff, and I asked her about it, and I'm really thankful that she told me. She's like, I don't want to talk about it, and I was like, okay, total respect. And then I started to reflect. It's like, whoa, like, if we talked about that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and we just started our hike, like, how would that affect the rest of our hike, and the time we're having, what we're doing. Yeah, and she really helped me become aware of, like, of how important you can bring a certain mood into a moment by having a certain type of conversation, or asking about things that are more joyful, or exciting, or exhilarating, or something like that, instead of stuff that might bring guilt or shame, or these deep feelings of loss or something like that. And I really appreciated that moment, and I actually really respected so much that she was like, I don't want to talk about it. So that was a big moment. It was really like, and I've been more aware of that now. It's like, wow, how the questions I ask and how I start a conversation really has an incredible emotional content in that moment, and that can really shift and steer, like, our decisions, our thinking, our connection to one another. And so that was a big moment for me this week.
Nice. Yeah. That's a meaningful one, man. So the being able to tap into your awareness. Hey, a lot of the time when we as men hear, hey, I don't want to talk about it, we'll still keep pulling. We're like, hey, no, you're going to talk about it. You're going to talk about it because we want to fix it, right? That's what we,
exactly.
What we do. We're fixers. It always reminds me of this one commercial or it's an old commercial where there's a couple sitting on a couch, and it kind of pans from behind, and it shows this lady talking about pressure and pain and how something is causing her heartache. And the man's like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. She's like, I don't want to talk about it. He's like, but you have a nail in your forehead, and it kind of pans around, and there's literally a nail sticking out.
I remember that commercial. Yeah.
And she's like, it's not about the nail. I just want to talk. And the guy's like, but if we just pull it out, and that's how we are as men. We just want to pull that nail out of your forehead and kind of fix things. So anyway, good on you for not pushing and just being in the moment and allowing her to be, where she needs to be. So
yeah,
right on, man. So, hey, let's talk about bosses versus leaders. Part 2,
for sure.
Man.
For sure. Well, how about this? I'll do a little summary. And you're going to show some of the posters that we have as well, just to kind of, so we're going to do a little recap. I'm going to do a quick little recap of part 1, things we learned, things we talked about, also from John and I's conversation, as well as our, the audience. You guys are helping us understand that. We have this image here about, that distinction we're trying to make, boss versus leader. And also, we're thinking, we're working with boss and leader, not just in like business orientation, but also in our community and our family. So think about those areas in your life as well. And in part 1, these are some of the nuggets, the gems that came out through part 1. The importance of listening as a leader, how a boss takes energy, and how a leader tends to lend and give his energy. That's that whole idea of like, kind of, I got your back. How a boss functions through stress. And typically is working in the sympathetic, that fight or flight or freeze energy, whereas the leader works a little more deeply into that parasympathetic nervous system. Not like a leader doesn't get stressed, but a leader understands how important it is to remain calm, right? To be able to listen and to be able to make decisions with the environment and what's going on around them. A leader also, sometimes a leader needs to be bossy, right? In the sense of like, but bossy typically for the safety of the group, or because they know that it's important to get to that goal. Great leadership is servant leadership. That was, you had mentioned that, John, in the beginning of the episode. Another listener had, I forget who it was, mentioned about servant leadership, like really serving. You're still the leader, but you're serving your people in order to achieve the best results. And I'd also add to have the best time you can when you're working together, instead of it being like this picture that we have up here. The boss is on top, like, so proud of himself for getting there, and look at all of his, subordinates just kind of falling off the mountain, where here is the leader, right? He is leading the charge, right? And helping to pull up, right? His, the people that he's working with. And also here, me versus we concepts, right? Blame versus responsibility, right? Whereas the boss blames and the leader takes responsibility. Bosses can be very transactional a lot of times, and just thinking of metrics and numbers and getting to the result and sacrificing the humanity of the group, where leaders tend to take that, realize that we are human beings and we're doing things collectively in community. Bosses typically, they use rank as power and as an ego trip, which you had talked about, John, about serving in the military. And I've seen that on my end as well. I mean, just because somebody has a higher title than me, all of a sudden they're a different person. And lastly, I have here how becoming a great leader requires practice, just like anything else, and also grows with maturity. You talked last episode, John, about how you were, I think leading the boat crew during Buds, and you're, I'm sure you were, God, you what, 20, 22 or something like that at that time, and just, just going at people, and then over time, becoming, more experienced in life and becoming, a better man. And also, I think it's important you're seeking leadership skills and not trying to be a better dictator or authoritarian kind of boss. But those are some of the things that those are some of the things. And I just said, like, a leader inspires, where a boss seems to diminish that light, because of that, just the nature of the values of a boss. So where does that leave you, John, when you hear our little recap of part one?
Yeah, man, I love that episode, and I think it's so important that people understand that distinction between the two. And when we say the terms boss versus leader, right? We had this conversation after sharing the fact that we were going to do this second episode this week on boss versus leaders part 2. We had some folks pinging us about, hey, can't you be a boss and still be a leader? And yes, the term boss, right? In the context that we're using it, we're basically showing that you can be a boss and really drain your people, not lead them. You kind of have them pull you along, and that's the kind of the context that we're using the word boss in this week, and the last episode as well. But I do believe, and this is one of my favorite things as a math guy, is Venn diagrams. Right. So you got your circles, and you got boss in one circle and you got leader in another. And what I believe is that the boss is the bigger circle and the leader is a smaller circle within that. And I think that you can, and I think there's a little bit of the leader circle kind of off to the side as well. So there's a little bit of overlap. I think you can be a leader and not be a boss. So you can be a leader and not be in charge, right? You can be a leader from at the very bottom of an organization, and you can be a leader from the boss's perspective as well. So as the boss in this particular context, being at the top of an organization, top of a team, but you can also be a leader there. And that's where that overlap is. But then a lot of the time what we find is that part of that boss circle that is completely has no leadership in it. They are only there because they've been with an organization for long enough to rise through the ranks, and they're not leaders. And in doing that, they lean on, hey, I've been here longer than you, so I'm in charge. They lean on that rank that you mentioned. There's a lot of I, and not a whole lot of we. So I think that's what jumps out at me in covering last week's show. And I saw your message there, Will, for the chat in the upper right corner of your screen. You should have a little thing that says chat, and that should bring up the comments and
shit. Okay, there it is. Okay, got it. I just expanded my screen. Everything's there. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Okay.
Very good. So, and I do want to also just highlight one of the comments that came in, something about tension racial tension with all that's going on in the news, all that's going on between the police and race. You know, the same kind of feeling last year. And we had an episode before we actually turned this into a podcast on racial tension. And this week's guest was going to be Rhonda McGee. And we were going to talk about mindfulness and racial injustice. Rhonda had a scheduling conflict. And again, we're just rolling with the punches with the guests, because our guests are being good enough to come on the show, and we have to be flexible with their schedule. But Rhonda is going to come on the show at some point. But just this week, it would have been perfect with her to talk about mindfulness and racial injustice. And just had to touch on that because I saw that comment pop in. So, so getting back to leaders versus bosses, man.
Well, I love what Diego's saying here. He goes, you know, a leader, and just think about this paradigm and how do you want to be led? You know, a boss leads with fear, right? Where a leader leads with love. Like, I mean, and just think about that, you know, that paradigm. It's like, what is going to achieve the best results, you know, or what is going, or the best outcome, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sure.
So I think it's like, you know, that whole, it's like, and I think incredibly how stressful it is to lead with fear. You know, it's like, I don't know, that was really stuck out at me. And I love that idea of like leading with love, you know, and what is in that, well, let's talk about that, John. What is in that bucket of fear, right? So what is some of maybe the fears? Because what I would like to do with this episode, I mean, it's you know, it's sad that Neil's not with us, but we can use this platform, I think, to help people that are bosses that have been kind of stuck in that boss attitude, right? That mindset of boss, and how we can lead them into more of a leadership style of being in charge. So how about what are those fears that a boss has, like, and where do they come from, and what are your thoughts around that?
I think that ties to last week's episode, man. The scarcity versus abundance. I think that a lot of the time, a boss is almost trying to win that bottom line or be the first to get his or her team to do X, Y, or Z. And when they do, they take all the credit and they don't give the credit to the team. But the reason they want to be the first one to get there is they think that there's only enough for them at the time, and not this thought of abundance. So I think I didn't even think about this until right now, the flow of the show with the scarcity versus abundance mindsets last week, that does flow directly into what it is we're discussing today in the bosses versus leaders. So I think the boss has that scarcity mindset, the leader has that abundance mindset. And I just heard some people coming in, so it may be the cops. So we'll see if I get arrested.
All right, get ready, guys. This is suspenseful, John. Well, I got you covered. I got your back, John. As a leader in this group, right? I got your back. But I think you're right. I mean, it's like you know, that boss. It's like that fear comes from a scarcity mindset. I think it's also, I think bosses tend to be very, care how much it looks like, you know, vain in some ways, the optics of you know, it's like, oh, how do I look? Like, look at my numbers, look at this bar graph, like it's going up and I'm taking all the credit and celebrate me and that sort of stuff. You know, I mean, even thinking about, John, that sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, or freeze, you know, that, you know, we don't tend to listen like we talked about in the beginning. It's, you know, we're shut down. Like literally our nervous system is shut down, and then we go into survival mode. And I think you're going to really make, and the companies I work with, I'm like, you know, you're going to make some bad decisions and create a lot of redundancy without being inclusive, which means abundant, right? And also being vulnerable and authentic, and forgetting about, you know, one thing that's really, mindfulness has really helped me, is forgetting about what it looks like and just doing the best I can with what I have and where I am.
Yeah.
So
I love that, man. And that's, coming full circle to that abundance mindset. So that leadership, I think another piece, and I posted this last night. I'll just tell you a quick anecdote about my experience yesterday. So I was supposed to speak with a team about leadership and what I think makes a good leader. And in my eyes, I think what makes a good leader is someone who has compassion, someone who has grit, someone who has resilience, and someone who is prepared. So those four things, and there's an overlap. Again, me, the Venn diagram guy, the overlap between those four is what makes a good leader. And a lot of the time where I think the boss distinguishes themselves from the leader, or rather the leader distinguishes themselves from the boss, is that compassion, the compassion for themselves, compassion for others. And that can come with that abundance, right? You want your team to have what they need. As a leader, you have to, and in order to give them what they need, you have to be compassionate so that you know what they need. So again, the difference, and we've covered this in another episode: sympathy, empathy, and compassion. And compassion is basically empathy with a desire to do something about it. And in order to have that desire to do something about it, to help others, you have to have that feeling or that thought, that mindset of abundance. So it's, absolutely. And not rely on your time in an organization, your rank, your positional authority. You rely on who you are. And I love what you talked about earlier. You know, a leader leads with love. And I think that's the compassion piece. So,
of course.
100%, man.
Well, how does a boss that, you know, I mean, so maybe there's a listener out there that, you know, he's been within an organization for a certain amount of time, and, you know, they've had a typical boss style of leadership, and, or maybe they, you know, they just feel like their job's in jeopardy or something like that, you know, and so how do we begin and this is a question for both of us, you know, but you know, I mean, for you right now, it's, you know, how do we begin to, you know, transgress or transcend from boss, into a leader? Like, what are some things that you can, that anybody that's listening out there, and this just, again, this, you know, I know we kind of wrap this conversation around like business and corporate stuff, but, you know, instead of being like the boss in your family, how can you be more of this loving leader in your family? So what are some skills or things that we can become more mindful of in order to transcend into a more effective person by being a loving leader?
Right. Well, I mean, I think you said the word right there, is mindful, and both in practicing, you know, meditation, and how meditation opens your mind up to live more mindfully. But in living more mindfully, you see what other people are experiencing, and you see them as human beings. You see us as all interrelated and how we all support one another. And in doing so, then that develops that compassion aspect for a human being. I believe you become more compassionate for others when you are practicing meditation. That offers you the compassion for yourself, and that is the foundation upon which you can build compassion for others. And then that also the meditation leads you into living more mindfully. And in living more mindfully, that's also going to allow you to have more compassion for others. And as a leader, I think that's critical. So,
yeah, very critical. And meditation is going to help you become more aware of your emotional life, you know, like that, you know, and really help you get in touch with the fear that is brought through, comes with the anxiety and comes with the stress. You know, in Confucianism, they talk about, if you want to be a great leader, then learn how to be an incredible follower. Right. It's like, what if you, instead of like, you know, listen, you know, trying to, you know, be on the top of the mountain, like we saw earlier, and like, you know, rallying around your success instead of everyone else's success to help you got there. You know, what if it means to step back and let others lead? You know, I think that would, you know, let someone else take a lead on a project, and it could be, you know, a project on your, you know, in your family or something like that. If you're building something together, and let your, you know, your son or your cousin, you know, lead whatever particular project that you're working on.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's these little, that's the thing, John. It's like, you know, you could absolutely go to leadership school, but again, like we're going to learn all these skills in a leadership school or program, whatever you want to call it. But then it's like, how do you actuate, right? What are the things that you do? How do you pragmatically get down and execute what it means to be a leader? And, again, the breathing is going to be a massive asset as well, because just like we experienced in the beginning of our show, how it could allow you to relax the nervous system, open up your mind. Another thing I think really important, we didn't say it yet. There's a rigidity to boss. That's why they have so much stress, because they're always trying to drive a circle into a square, right? And it doesn't fit, right? You got to be flexible and lose that rigidity, and just even that breathing is going to help just to soften, get away from that rigidity, open up into that flexibility, and that hopefully, that would help you to just understand what it takes to just let go of that boss role, let go of being that authoritarian. So
and I mean, I think the opposite is also true, right? So we're talking about how you can do these little things in your personal life that are going to open you up to be more compassionate, more loving, and then take you from being a boss to being a leader. I think once you are in a leadership role versus a boss, or once you're living as a leader, then you can take that back into your personal life as well. You learn from other people in your organizations. So you got the compassion. So you're able to be open to who they are. You see how they lead. Maybe they're leading from the lower ranks, and you see them and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take that little nugget and I'm going to start using it as a leader. And then also as a leader we were talking a lot about leadership in corporate teams or corporate spaces, but what about being a leader in the community, a leader in your family? And you bring those same little nuggets home that you've learned from your people, and you can become not just a boss in your community, not just a boss in your family, but now you are a leader in your community. You are a leader in your family. And then that just trickles down, right? Everyone that's around you is learning lessons from you too. So as a leader, I think that's, I think that was one of the distinguishing factors too, as a boss tells their people, hey, they need to be better, whereas a coach wants to coach their people to be better. Well, the flip side is true too. I think there's reverse mentorship or reverse leadership, that as a leader in the lower ranks, you want your leader, you want the head of the organization, you want them to be a leader. You don't want them to be a boss, and you want to teach them. So you can be, again, that kind of went all over the place, but I guess bottom line, what I'm saying is that you can learn. That's the beginner's mindset, right? That we talked about a few weeks ago, that the leader has that beginner's mindset and is going to want to not only learn from other people in high ranks and not learn from those above him only or those laterally, but they're going to look down. And when I say, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't use the word him, them, with bosses, because I am fully aware that bosses and leaders can be both female and male. Over to you, man. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think another way, like especially if you're in a large organization or in a large community that you lead, what if and just think about the amount of respect that you'll receive by just dropping into a meeting, not as the boss, but just as somebody to learn. I think just a big deal is someone's, we should be learning daily. What can you learn by stepping into a meeting that it'd be maybe kind of weird, to have like some whatever CEO or some middle manager or something like that dropping into a meeting that might not have necessarily any. Well, I'm sure it has something to do with the work that they're doing, but just to learn the process. And maybe that's the thing. It's like going in with that vulnerability and just be like, hey, I'm here to learn. I want to learn more about what you guys are doing. I'm also want to be a more effective leader. Just even stating that I want to be a more effective leader. And you guys are helping me do that because we work with all this together. And so, here we are. I just talked about language in the beginning of the show, how just setting that that mood, right? And that environment that, you're not a threat, right? Whereas like bosses we talked about really begin to see things as a threat. And I guess those, coming from that scarcity, it's a threat to the bottom line, it's a threat to their promotion, and therefore it's a, maybe a threat to their family because, how they're tied in financially with that job and stuff like that.
Right.
And there's just a lot of, even like, I think another great thing, John, is like study great leaders. There's no shortage of books out there on like, Eisenhower. Like you want to study great leader, look at Ike, right? I mean, or look at, there's a lot of really great. And the reason Eisenhower was so well liked because he was friendly, he was open, he was like, he was flexible and really cared. And that's the thing. He led with love. He really, really, really cared about people. And when you care about people, people are going to care about you and people want to be around you.
Right.
And that's like soften that boss mindset. But yeah, please, John.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went to the Eisenhower Museum as I was driving across the country a few years ago with my dad, and walking around and seeing how he led, and then we got to watch a video on everything that he did as a military leader, and then when he was president, what he did as a president. And it's just like, man, I just want to sit down with this guy and pick his brain about leadership. And you can do that through reading. And you've heard, you may have heard the saying, not all readers lead, but all leaders read. And
there you go. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's, and you have to learn from others. Again, that comes back to the beginner's mindset. You gotta, one of our watchers, it says you've actually got Ike's little cousin right here. Let's see who that is, because
I know I saw somebody.
And
then we have a question before I lose it. We have a question here too, but
Nikki
someone wrote
Eisenhower.
Nikki Eisenhower. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah, there you go.
That's amazing, right? Yeah. here's John Wayne, right? Mullins. He has, do leaders develop their followers as opposed to a boss? So what is your take on that, John? Do leaders develop their followers as opposed to a boss?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. And I think not only that, but the leader has followers, right? The leader has people that want to follow him or her. And the boss just has people who are going through the motions. And yes, coming back to the original question, yes, absolutely. A leader wants to develop their followers. We have a saying in the military, train your relief. Like you kind of almost want to work your way out of a job, not because of bad reason in the military, but eventually you're going to leave in the military. There's a rotation set up where you're going to leave that organization. So you train those who are under you. So in a way, it's almost fostering leadership. It's almost forcing leadership, because you have to train those under you. But the whole organization benefits from developing your followers, from developing those who work for you. And and that comes also back to that kind of reverse model. As a leader in some of the lower ranks in an organization, you want those who are higher in the hierarchy than you want to help them develop themselves as well. So if you have an opportunity to do some type of roundtable discussion, sometimes some leaders hold that, you can share your lessons with them. So really a leader doesn't just want to develop their followers, but I think a leader wants to develop everyone around them. They want everyone around them to be better, because if everyone around them is better, then the whole organization is better. That whole rising tide floats all boats, man. That's what I think a leader is, another distinguishing factor between a leader and a boss. So that's my thought.
I think another way to develop the follower or a follower is like put them in a leadership position, but also being very clear that you have their back. Like they're, because like, I think when you have, as a compassionate and a loving leader, there's a natural a natural like offering to be like, hey, I'm here to support you, right? I love that whole idea, John. Like, and I think we work so well together because I know I got your back, you got my back, and we just come together and we lead this together. Like we lead this show together. We create the post production and the production together. And I think this is what I want to say. So I think if you're working in an organization that's very rigid, that's very hierarchical, top down, rank oriented kind of thing, there might be a lot of fear with a follower or somebody that, a subordinate, to step up into that leadership role because of fear of failure, because you don't have their back. Right. And that's like really important. That development is to create that space to allow. And I study a lot of corporate leadership and team oriented and stuff like that. And a lot of organizations fail because they don't have this environment in which you can fail.
Yeah.
It's all about getting it right. We talk about masculinity and toxic masculinity, confined masculinity, being the unwillingness to ask for help. Right. And how, and typically a lot of these organizations, a lot of companies are very kind of masculine, hierarchical based structures in some way, not just all by men, but just the way it's like, it's just it's like a pyramid in how you answer in how you answer to things. But to have that environment, have that flexibility, have that ethos within your company that it's okay to fail. Or just not even fail. It's like falling short of a particular goal. But that's where someone mentioned creativity here. Like that's where you can really get some incredible ideas flowing because of those attempts. It's like trial and error.
Right.
And I think I know that would be very helpful.
Absolutely,
by creating that environment for sure.
Absolutely. So the old man in the arena, right? Teddy Roosevelt.
I love that.
Yeah. So. I'm sure all our watchers or listeners have heard some version of it, but it basically breaks down into those who are willing to take a chance. Those are those who are down in the arena, and then everybody else is a critic. And the critics are normally the ones who are sitting up in the cheap seats, talking about how the man or woman in the arena is doing things wrong. And Brene Brown, I'm a huge fan of Brene. She talks about, when you're creating something, never ever listen to what the critics say, because they're not down in the arena with you. And I think that's another piece, that the leaders are willing to take a chance. Leaders are the ones down in the arena. Bosses are the ones in the cheap seats, not creating; they're just consuming. And I think that's another distinguishing factor between the boss and leader. You want to go through some of the comments?
Yeah, you know what? Could I read? I had that memorized, the man in the arena. And someone actually put here, it's biblically based, which is pretty interesting. But I had brought it up on the feed here. Thanks for the internet, right? And I'll read that and then we'll go through the comments. Is that okay, John? Or maybe you can write down some of the comments because they seem to go away. And
I can see them on.
Okay, yeah, I can't scroll, but I'll read this. So it's not here. This is The Man in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt. The Man in the Arena. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles and where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. I love that quote.
Yes, me too, man. It's been near and dear to my heart. Since I was an academy midshipman. They make you memorize it your freshman year. And and Brene Brown, again, I love Brene, but she does miss that last part, which I think that last part about
Ah,
at worst, or never knows their place among those cold and timid souls. That part always like, man, those cold and timid souls, those are the bosses. Those cold and
yeah.
timid souls are the bosses.
Oh.
Those are the ones who are critics and
Mhm.
aren't willing to take a chance because they don't want to fail. They don't want to be seen as failures. When
Right.
you can learn and grow and become better by taking a risk, and perhaps you do fail or at least falter. The way I see it is failure is never failure if you're learning and growing from it.
Never.
I mean, so
Mhm.
that's the other one of the other distinguishing factors between bosses and leaders is the desire to grow and learn from your actions,
Yeah.
and not be one of those cold and timid souls who's never willing to take a chance. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Should we, we're at, we got
yeah,
like, I don't know,
20
10
out.
minutes or so.
Yeah,
So, should
let's see.
we take a couple questions here? People are
Yeah,
really
I'm
liking that whole failure thing, which is awesome. But
gonna
yeah, pick one, John.
Yeah, I'll scroll through here and just see if there's any comments, questions. Um, let's see. Yeah, we talked about the man in the arena being biblically based. Wow, tongues tied today. So yeah, let's see. Yogi Berra. We've got Eisenhower's little cousin on here. I don't see a whole lot of questions. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, we already talked about John Wayne Mullins's do followers
Yeah.
develop or do leaders develop their followers?
Mhm.
Um, let's see. I think there was one more about flexibility that I'm having. Oh, here we go. From one of our listeners, John, can you elaborate on the flexibility of following the person who moves first? That's an
Ooh.
interesting one, and I think that's a yeah, that's a great one. Let me think about that one. What I
I
would
can,
like to say just instantly. Yeah, Will, if you have something, but I've got some things too.
no,
But
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
John.
man.
Go ahead. I'll follow your lead. I'll follow your lead.
Yeah. So
If I can.
the flexibility on following who goes first.
Yeah.
Here we are. We're deciding who's going to go first. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to be as a leader. You have to continue, and again, a leader wherever you are in an organization, you have to continually be assessing the type of person who is leading, or rather moving first. Sometimes people are moving first to make a good first impression or
Mhm.
an impression at all. People are moving first because they want to win, not because they want to help out the team. So I think you have to be wary in following those who move first and know what type of person they are. Are they a leader or are they a boss?
Mhm.
And I would say that most of the time, if they're a leader, most of the time, feel free
Mhm.
to follow them, but also know that a lot of the time those leaders are willing to take risks that bosses wouldn't. And
Yeah.
sometimes that may lead to a failure, but ultimately that failure is going to help either you or the organization grow in the long
Yeah.
run. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on that. Great question. Thanks, John.
Really good question. I think like those people that are stepping up, I mean, good for them. People that are taking that first, taking the risk of stepping up. And I think anybody, if you're in that environment or in that situation or organization where, someone does step up and you are like, now you're being led by somebody, right? I think that what's really required and coming along like that environment of compassion and love is patience. Just see the decisions that person is making and where it's leading you, and based on that data. So instead of like getting into like, oh, I hate this guy, like he's like always, he's always this and always that, never giving him a chance, putting yourself right into that, fight or flight, closing down, not listening, getting rigid, right? Versus like opening up, giving them a shot, being patient, breathing, right? And I would also add supporting them with your energy. And they can feel that when you have that patience and you have some, everyone's right in here. I love that they're like, hey, we got your back, which is amazing. Just getting somebody, and there'll be moments like if you need to step up and help them out or just kind of, figuratively kind of grab an arm and help them up a little bit. It's that's what I love, that whole idea. Thank you for, I don't know who said that, but loving leaders love,
John
and
Bullwinkle.
yeah, but thank you, Mr. Bullwinkle. It's yeah. So this has been very fruitful, John.
Yeah,
It's sad
always.
that
Hey,
Neil's not on with
maybe
us today. We'll figure it out.
maybe
But go
we
ahead.
could do a bosses versus leaders episode 3 and have Neil's insights, because I'm sure he's got some valuable insights. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
what happens.
I'm
But yeah,
sure.
let's wrap it up, man. And yeah, thank you so much for the great questions, comments. I appreciate it. And Will and I will be answering those here shortly. For those who happen to tune out now, because we're going to wrap it up with another grounding practice, and sometimes we lose our viewers. If you are about to jump off, hey, think about leaving us a review on iTunes. We'd love to really get this podcast into more people's ears, get what it is we're sharing into more people's lives, and really help to change lives, because we honestly think that's what we're doing. That's why we do it. We love what we're doing, but it's also helpful to get those reviews. And definitely please share the show, share the videos that we do, share the audio that we do too. So thanks for tuning in, and we will get Neil Markey back on the show at some point to talk about leadership in corporate America, to talk about his organization Evolutio. That's basically evolution without an N on it. So check out his website, evolutio.org. And then we'll definitely have him back to talk about some other aspects of mindfulness as well, because he is a mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher down in Mexico doing great work. So that said, I'll go ahead and lead our final grounding practice, and then we'll wrap it up, brother. You got any last comments before I do that?
I just want to remind people of our Halo Sport giveaway. So go to mentalkingmindfulness.com, enter your email, and we will select 3 winners for a month's supply of their powder sticks, halosport.com. And if you want to get 20% off Halo Sport, it's MTM 2021 at halosport.com. I'm going to give myself a little shameless plug, John. If you want to learn meditation, every Saturday, I have a breath and meditation lab at 12 o'clock Eastern time. It's all virtual. You can, Zoom in from everywhere. It's live. So if you want to drop in, just head to willnotfear.com, and you can just go to my site and find it right there. And I've been wanting to do that plug for a while, John, because I know meditation is an easy way into mindfulness and all these other practices that we talk about.
Absolutely.
So here's an opportunity. And John, I'm going to say, I think I'd like to have you kind of guest host it. Maybe like once a month or something like that. You know what I mean? Why not? You know what I mean? I'm putting that out there in the world, and it's first time John's hearing about it, because, why not, John? We get to grow this community together, and everybody that's on the stream today, everyone that's listening, we grow this community together with your reviews, with your shares, with your likes, with your comments. So I really cannot appreciate and say thank you enough to you, John, to the show, to the community creating, and all the people that support us. So thank you so much.
Amen, brother. And that circles back to our show on the power of gratitude. We are so grateful for our watchers and our listeners, our audience, and thank you so much for being here with us, but also thank you for sharing the message. You guys rock. So that said, go ahead, get into a comfortable position, plant your feet on the ground, firmly on the ground, and really feel your feet rooting into the ground, whether you're barefoot or through your shoes. And then slowly close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. Otherwise, just soften your gaze. Sit with your back straight but not stiff. Let's begin by just doing a few cleansing breaths. Begin by bringing your navel to your spine, breathing out all your air. Breathe deep into your belly through your nose. And then let it go nice and slow, slow, slow out breath. One more deep belly breath in through your nose. And then let it go nice and slow, slow, slow. Really nice and slow on the out breath. And then just bring your attention to the physical sensations that you're experiencing right now. What are you hearing? What are you seeing even with your eyes closed or with your gaze softened? What are you seeing? What are you smelling? On each breath in through your nose, just note if you're smelling anything, any scents, aromas. Can you taste anything? Even a neutral taste. Then just do a quick scan of your touch points, your feet touching the ground, the back of your legs, and potentially the back of your back against your seat. Your hands resting, what it is they're feeling. You feel your clothing resting on your body. And then note what you're feeling emotionally. Don't feel a need to change anything, just note it. Are you feeling anxious, relaxed, stressed, at peace? Have compassion for yourself for whatever it is you're feeling. And then let's wrap it up with 2 more cleansing breaths. Begin by breathing out all your air, bringing your navel to your spine. Breathe deep down into your belly through your nose. Fill it all the way up into your chest. And let it go nice and slow. Slow. One more. Breathe deep down into your belly. Last sip into your chest. And relax. And then when you're ready, go ahead and bring some movement back into your body and start to come out of the practice, blinking your eyes open. And here we are. That's a wrap. Brother, another great show. Thank you so much for being with me, man. I really appreciate you, man.
Same, John. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks to the audience. Yes, Apple Podcast is free, guys. Someone just wrote all free. So
that's right. That's right.
Catch you next week, everybody. John, I'll catch you really soon. And thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to wrap it up with a picture of Neil, even though he wasn't here, but we'll wrap it up.
Thanks for joining Will and John on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, please like and share it with your friends and family, and please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness.